All right, so we are joining you live from the Earth Ranger Center in Vaughan, Ontario. We're really excited to see you today, and the only reason we could be here today was actually generously sponsored from our friends at Honda. So thank you so much, because we are really excited. We're going to meet another one of our famous animal ambassadors. If you have been watching over the past couple of weeks, we have met a number of our amazing animals. One of the ones I do recommend watching is Millie, our three-banded armadillo. She's a very interesting animal, but also very unusual. So if you haven't seen those yet, you can find them all on our Facebook page. Now today we are meeting Finn, and he's going to come out here, but first, I just want to give you some background about Earth Rangers, what we're all about. So if you've never heard of us, Earth Rangers is a kids conservation organization. So we have over 200,000 members all across Canada that are working really hard to protect animals and the environment. And they are doing some amazing things in their community and at home. So they've done things like switched to reusable water bottles, changed all the light bulbs in their houses so they're energy efficient. They've even gone out and picked up garbage safely in their neighborhoods, even just visiting a park and experiencing the wildlife we have in our very own backyards. All of our Earth Rangers, they earn rewards and points with everything that they do. So for our Earth Rangers who are watching, thank you so much. We love all your work. We love to hear your stories, so keep them, sending them to us. And of course, we're gonna keep showcasing all of the hard work you guys are doing as well. Now, if you aren't an Earth Ranger and you're interested, do not worry, stick around to the end and we'll tell you about how you can become an Earth Ranger and join the thousands of students who are already taking action. Now, we are going to meet our next animal friend. Actually, a lot of you are probably going to recognize them. You might even see them in your very own backyard. I know I do see them every so often. So I know you guys are going to be really excited to meet him. While he's out here, please feel free to comment, ask questions. We're going to spend some time at the end answering any questions you might have about our next guest. And I hope you guys are really excited to meet him. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to meet our next animal friend. So without further ado, we would love for you guys to meet Lisa and Finn.
Hi everybody, as Sarah mentioned, this is Finn, and Finn is a red fox. And as she mentioned, she's seen them around here, and that's because you will find them all over Canada. They're found in every province and territory. But you won't just find red foxes here in Canada. You'll also find them all over the world. They can actually be found on every continent except Antarctica. Now, they're very well adapted to living in different environments. So you'll find them everywhere. You'll find them in grasslands, in prairies, forests, mountain areas, and even deserts. Because of this, they're actually one of the most widespread mammalian carnivores around because they're so easily adaptable to any environment and habitats. Now, as you can see, they are called a red fox for a reason. They have this nice, red, luscious coat, but not all red foxes are actually red. Sometimes they might be silver or brown or black. Even in the same litter, you might get different colors. But generally, they're known for the red color. And they have those black tips on the back of their ear, and they have a white tip on their tail. And it sometimes looks like they're wearing little boots because they have little black markings on their feet. Now, in the winter, they look a lot fluffier, and their coat looks a lot more luxurious. Because in the winter, because they're from cold climates as well, they need to grow a nice warm winter coat. So he'll be twice as fluffy as he is now, and his tail will sometimes be 2 to 3 times as thick as it is now. Because in the winter, generally they'll sleep out in the open, maybe under a log or a bush. So to keep warm, they'll just roll themselves up into a ball, and they can wrap that big bushy tail around them like a scarf, and it helps keep them warm. The bottom of their feet are also adapted for snow. They're similar to dogs with the pads, but they do have some fur in between the pads, so it helps keep their feet warm as well. But now that it's warming up, he's starting to get this nice spring coat on, and so yeah, they shed a lot of it. So some of those long hairs that he has, he's halfway through his shed right now, so he'll look a lot lighter once it gets a bit warmer. I'm just going to, 1 second, just switch it over right now so I can see the comments. Sorry if you had some questions, I couldn't see the comments for a minute there. So as I was saying, so Finn here, he is still quite young. He's only about 6 years old. Red foxes in the wild, they can, or in captivity, they can live around 10 to 15 years. So he is quite young, and we've had him since he was little. So I have a question for you. What do you think they like to eat? Based on their diet, that's helped them to do so well in the wild because of what they eat. So if you have any suggestions or thoughts of what you think it is, just write it in there. I will tell you a little bit more about them in the meanwhile. So normally they're out looking for food. Dawn, dusk, and sometimes overnight. So they're crepuscular, which is dawn and dusk, or nocturnal, which is out at night. And their eyes are adapted for seeing well when it's really dark out, so they have some low light vision. So I see some comments coming in. There's some, Sarah says mice, and Earth Ranger Kayla says squirrels, bugs, meat, berries, eggs, yeah, everything. You're right, because they're omnivores. But more specifically, and what helps make them so successful is they're opportunistic omnivores. And what does that mean? Well, that means that they'll eat at any opportunity they can get. So they're always looking for food. It doesn't matter if they're hungry or not, they'll still be out looking for food. And when they find it, if they don't want to eat it at that moment, then they'll just store it or cache it somewhere under some leaves or a log and just save it for another day. So Bailey asked if they live in family groups. So yeah, sometimes you will find them in a pair, maybe more. It depends on the environment, depends on how much food is available. Males do have their territory, so generally, more often you'll see them solitary, but they will come together for breeding season. So talking more about their food and how successful they are in the wild, I see a question about how they will catch their food, and I'm gonna get to that shortly. So they're able to use all their senses. So they do, just their diet is so variant, so they can change depending on the season and the habitat, or the time of year. So if it's really like springtime now, they might be finding some eggs or some young birds. And then in the summer, they'll find a lot of insects and berries and vegetation. And then in the wintertime, when all that stuff they can't find as much, then they might eat some more small mammals like mice and rats and rabbits. And they use all their senses to find their food. So I see a question from Kaya, what are their predators? So some of their predators are some larger mammals like coyotes or wolves. Humans are also not a predator, but they do limit foxes. But generally foxes are pretty shy and secretive, and they're fast. So usually they can just go and hide if they hear someone or another predator around, but some other large birds could also go after Finn. So back to their senses and how they find food. So he's actually going to demonstrate a few behaviors for you on how he finds his food in the wild. So I am just going to move over here for a minute. So, oh, there we go. So they'll use their nose and they'll smell in the ground. And if they smell some tasty insects, they can dig using those front feet and long claws. Let's see if he wants to dig. He doesn't really like insects, so he's not digging too deep for anything. Dig, dig. Yeah, he doesn't really want to dig too much. But they also use their ears. So if they hear a mouse or something underneath the snow, their ears are really, oh, there he's starting already. Their ears are really good, and they can hear a mouse about 30 meters away, scurrying or squeaking. And when they hear it under the snow, they'll pounce, they'll jump in the air. He can jump a lot higher than that. And he'll jump up, and there you go. And he comes down with his front feet, lands right on the prey. Very good. And that's how they can catch some rodents. This is something that foxes are known for. Red foxes, Arctic foxes, you'll often see a lot of videos of them doing that. There you go. And they also use their eyes. So if they have very good eyesight, so they can even spot just the slightest movement of a rabbit's ears. But they'll also look for birds, and if they see birds up in the sky, they can actually jump up. Whoops, oh, you missed that bird. All right, come on back up. Let's see if he wants to go. But they can jump around a few meters up into the air and catch birds as they fly by. We'll do one more jump. Just show up. There's one. All right. Yeah, so because they eat so many different foods, and they use all their senses to find it, they're very successful. It's unlike other birds like Finnegan that you saw before, the bald eagle, where he mostly uses his eyes to spot food. And we saw Millie, the armadillo, and she'll use her nose and she'll sniff out some grubs and stuff in the ground. Who else did we have on here? We had Floyd, and he'll use his tongue and smell or taste the air. And coming up in future ones, so keep an eye out if you like owls, because you may see an owl coming out pretty soon. And they use their ears to find their food, whereas Finn uses them all, so he's very successful. So like I said before, they are opportunistic feeders, which means they will eat anything. Doesn't matter what it is, they will eat it. And unfortunately, because they are also close and becoming closer to humans in residential areas, they get into garbages as well. So you always want to make sure that when you're throwing out your garbage, you're doing it in a respectful way that helps animals, that they don't get stuck in there or anything like that or hurt. So we have a question from Kim. She's asked, how many babies in the litter? So it can range anywhere from usually around 1 to 10, but on average, they're usually around 4 to 6 would be normal. When they're born, they're really small and they're blind and pretty helpless, and they're actually usually brown or gray. They don't have this nice red coat yet. So they'll start getting this red coat once they get a bit older. So around a month, they'll start getting the red coat. And then around that time, they'll start feeding on some other stuff. Mom and Dad will start bringing back little tidbits of food, like fruit and vegetables and rodents for them to eat. And then they'll slowly, as they grow, they will then start to hunt on their own, and then they can leave their mom and dad. So Kyla asks, how fast can he run? Yeah, so they are really fast, not as fast as like a cheetah or anything, but they're known to run up to around 50 kilometers an hour. So similar to how fast you might be driving on, regular streets around your neighborhood. And because they're fast and because they have such good eyes and nose and everything, usually you don't even know they're around. So Bill asks, why do they have a white-tipped tail? That's a good question. There's different theories as to why some animals might have a white tip on their tail. Like deers there's a white tip. There's different thoughts for it. For them, it could be for when they're young. they recognize their parents and in each other, and it could be due to the white tip on their tail. I'm not exactly sure though. It's a good question. They do have some lighter parts on their face and chest as well. Yeah, so let's see what other question. Judy asked, can Finn be trained to be a house pet like a dog? So they are similar. They are canine, so they are dog-like, but I do not recommend having a fox as a pet. They are still wild animals, but as you can see, he's well-mannered, and you can train them to do some behaviors. Here at Earth Rangers, we also always do natural behaviors, so things that they would normally do in the wild, so like digging and jumping. That's just something that, oh, he's digging now. That's just something that they can, that they do naturally, so we do train them to do that. So Sarah asked, what do you do if you see them in the wild? So just give them their space. You don't want to, generally they won't hurt you. They're more nervous, and they'll usually leave before you even see them. But if you happen to be driving by and you see one in the field, just look at them from a distance, but give them their space. You don't want to scare them. You may scare them and then they run out into traffic and then they could get injured. So yeah, you just always want to give them space and just watch them. So how's their sight at night and during their day? So like I said, they have excellent vision as well. And their eyes are almost cat-like in that their pupil is vertical. And they're really good at seeing in low light situations. So that's why they usually are out dawn and through the night. But you will see them during the day as well. It's not unusual to see them. So Catherine asked, how old is he and how long do they live? Yeah, so Finn is 6 years old, and we've had him since he was about 2 weeks old. And they'll live in captivity around 10 to 15 years. Of course, in the wild, it'll be a little bit less because there they have predators, they have habitat loss, and there's also disease that's out there. So foxes in the wild, you have to be careful if you come across them because they have been known to carry a few diseases like rabies, distemper, or mange. Mange is probably the more common one. You may see them, they look really scruffy. They might be shedding, but they could have a skin condition. So Chris asked, does Finn have any siblings? And he sure does. He is joined here by his brother Forrest. And we've had them both since they were babies. And yeah, so he does have a brother here. So I think that's about, oh, does Finn take baths? No, Finn doesn't really like the water too much. He'll, put his paws in there and scoop out some food or something, but generally he doesn't like to take a bath, but he doesn't mind the rain a little bit. He will sit out there for a little bit, but no, they don't really like the rain. How many different types of foxes are there in Canada? From Danielle. Oh, that's a good question. So red foxes actually aren't native to Canada. They were actually brought over from Europe. And because they do so well in the wild, they've just exploded everywhere. And in some areas, like Australia, they're actually a pest there because they go after some of the native wildlife. And but here you can also find Arctic foxes and gray foxes are also one that is common, not common, but found here in Canada. Bailey says, who gets to name the animal ambassadors? So we do different things. Sometimes we'll do a Facebook page post where we try and get suggestions from everybody on some names. Sometimes the staff get to name some. Sometimes when they're young, when we have them, their personalities coming through, and then we might think of a name that would really suit their personality. So sometimes we'll just name them that way. Forrest and Finn were actually done through a contest, and if you go back through our videos, you'll actually see both of them in the video where we do the name reveal of Forrest and Finn, which is actually was pretty cute. Are they invasive, and do they decrease the biodiversity from oh, sorry, it just went off the screen. Yeah, so they are invasive. Worse in some areas than others. But here they've kind of adapted with some of the other animals. They have competed a little bit with gray foxes and stuff, but generally they live in different areas. They go after different food types, so they've been able to kind of live together with some of the animals. But they've been here for so long that a lot of people don't even realize that that they weren't here naturally to begin with. Catherine asks, can red foxes have a different coloration than Finns? Yeah, for sure. Even though they have a name red fox, they're not always red. They can be brown, silver, black, even within the same litter, they might be different colors. So yeah, it's quite natural, but red is the one that everyone is used to. And when you think of a red fox, I think this is exactly the picture that you think you have in your mind. So I think we're probably good for time now. So I'm going to pass it back to Sarah, and she's going to talk a little bit about the app and what you can do to help out. All right, come on.
All right, thank you so much, Finn. I hope you really enjoyed that. I know I did. Watching him jump and even dig was amazing. So please give a thumbs up if you love Finn. Now you can see my thumb is green. I'm a real Earth Ranger. I've got an actual green thumb. But give me a thumbs up if you loved him. He's a great animal, and I'm glad that you guys got to see him. And Lisa was saying, if you do want to help out, because she did say they are an animal that are affected by our different things that we're doing in the wild, red foxes are one of the animals you can adopt. And how you can do this is actually through our new Earth Rangers app. So if you haven't done so yet, and I mentioned before, if you're not an Earth Ranger, sign up and get our app. Or if you are an Earth Ranger and haven't yet transferred your account, do so. There's a lot of fun things that you can do on this app. One of which is the adoption. So you can symbiotically adopt an animal. And there's lots of different ones out there, but like I said, the red fox, oh, this glare. Let's see if I can do this without getting through the glare. There we go, there's the red fox. If you adopt a red fox though, I'll show you the actual thing. There's not gonna be a glare with this guy. There's actually a way that you can adopt, and you'll get a plushie to remind you of the animals that you are working to protect. So there's the Arctic fox as well, if you're interested in that one. And today, actually this week, we are celebrating the Eastern milk snake. So I don't know if you can see this plushie, the size of this plushie. If you want to adopt the Eastern milk snake, well, it's a scale larger. I'll just wrap that around my neck. There we go. So these are our Eastern milk snake, the red fox are both up there for adoption on our app. You can have a look on the left-hand side is the panel where you can glance through all of them, because there's a lot of animals out there that can use a little bit of our assistance. Now, again, we're here thanks to our friends at Honda. We just saw our friend Finn, I was going to call him an Arctic fox. He's a red fox. He's this guy. And just for watching today, we have a code. It is ER Live. So if you've got our app, make sure you check that out. There is a section where you can enter your codes. ER Live is the one we're using for today. Make sure you get your points in the app, and you might even level up. So make sure you're checking those out. And again, if you are interested in learning more about some awesome animals, we are going to be back this Thursday. We are meeting another one of our animal ambassadors. So make sure you tune in Thursday at 2 p.m. But that is it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you check out our app and have a great day. Bye, everyone.